Hey gossip lovers! Imagine flying across the world, exhausted, nervous, but full of hope, to support the person you love, only to walk straight into the coldest heartbreak imaginable. No warning, no real explanation, just blindsided in public, humiliated while the cameras kept rolling. That's exactly what happened when JOJO Siwa's relationship with Kath Ebbs unraveled. Not behind closed doors, but on one of the biggest stages possible, Celebrity Big Brother UK. But as messy as it looked on the surface, the real story is even crazier. Twists, betrayals, and emotional chaos that no one could have scripted. And what's most shocking, it was all happening right in front of us the entire time. Let's break down exactly how everything spiraled out of control. For JOJO Siwa, entering Celebrity Big Brother UK wasn't just another reality show appearance. It symbolized something much bigger, a clean slate, a new era. By 2024, JOJO had spent more than a decade living under a microscope. She grew up performing, singing, and dancing under bright lights, always wearing her trademark bows and projecting non-stop positivity. To millions of kids, she was a role model. To many adults, she was frozen in time, still seen as the over-caffeinated teen star, even as she tried to grow into herself. So when news broke that JOJO would be joining Big Brother UK, it felt like a bold move. It was her chance to show a different side, a raw, unfiltered JOJO. A young woman trying to carve out her own identity, no longer fitting neatly into a corporate image or children's entertainment. Fans were excited but cautious. Reality TV is brutal. You can't hide behind clever editing or a polished PR team. In the Big Brother house, your true self leaks out eventually. And early on, JOJO seemed aware of the risks. She opened up in emotional confessionals about how tough it was growing up famous, about the pressures to be perfect and the loneliness that fame often brings. She talked about wanting to be real, to be seen as a full, complicated human being, not just a brand. At first, it worked. The public started rooting for her, seeing glimpses of a more vulnerable, authentic JOJO. But underneath that vulnerability, something darker was brewing, something even JOJO didn't seem fully aware of, something that would ultimately cost her not just her reputation, but the person she loved most. It didn't take long for fans, and Kath watching back home, to notice that JOJO's attention wasn't just focused on the competition. It was focused on Chris Hughes. Chris, a former Love Island contestant, came into the house with his own complicated reputation. Charming but often flirtatious, Chris had a history of blurring the lines between friendship and romance on TV. At first, JOJO and Chris's connection seemed harmless, just two housemates finding comfort in each other amid the stress. But soon, their bond deepened in a way that was impossible to ignore. They weren't just laughing together, they were physically close, almost magnetic. They sat pressed together on couches, whispering into each other's ears, giggling over inside jokes that no one else seemed to understand. They draped arms over each other casually, but casually, a little too often. Small moments piled up. Chris playing with JOJO's hair while she talked. JOJO absent-mindedly stroking Chris's back during conversations. Long, lingering forehead touches that felt too intimate for two people who were supposedly just friends. Fans clipped the footage and posted it online. Some defended JOJO, arguing it was just her being affectionate by nature. Others saw something deeper, a clear emotional intimacy that betrayed her partner back home. Even if there wasn't anything physical, there was emotional energy sparking between them. Energy that Kath could see helplessly through her phone screen every day. And then came the whispers. Was JOJO developing feelings for Chris? Was Chris leading her on? Or worse, were they both pretending nothing was happening, while knowing full well they were crossing a line? No matter the answers, the damage was already underway. The first signs that JOJO's heart might be wandering came during one of the Big Brother late-night live feeds. In a hushed conversation with other housemates, JOJO dropped a bombshell. She wasn't sure if she even wanted to stay in her relationship anymore. There wasn't one big declaration. It leaked out slowly, almost accidentally. Little comments here and there about feeling confused and not being sure what she wanted in the long term. It might have seemed casual to people in the house, but to Kath, watching from thousands of miles away, it was devastating. Because up until that point, JOJO hadn't given any sign that she was unhappy. In fact, just days before entering the house, JoJo had filmed weeks of personalized video messages. Daily little love notes Kath could open while JoJo was isolated from the outside world. Each one was filled with promises. "I love you more than anything. I can't wait to spend my life with you. You're my person." Hearing JoJo question the relationship publicly, with strangers, shattered that image. It made Kath question whether the promises had meant anything at all, and worse, it humiliated her. The woman she loved was now an open book to millions of viewers, casually debating her future like it was just another storyline for entertainment. Even JoJo's closest supporters online began to turn. There's vulnerability, and then there's cruelty disguised as self-discovery. And to many, JoJo was drifting into the second category. Meanwhile, Kath was living in a nightmare that she couldn't escape. Social media became a battlefield. Everywhere she turned, there were clips, comments, jokes, all highlighting JoJo's closeness with Chris, all questioning the strength of her and JoJo's relationship. Strangers speculated openly about when, not if, JoJo would leave her, and yet, Kath stayed silent. She didn't lash out. She didn't post cryptic tweets or angry TikToks. Instead, she did what heartbroken people often do. She clung harder to hope. She rewatched JoJo's pre-recorded videos. She read and reread JoJo's old texts. She convinced herself that the JoJo she knew, the one who had promised her forever, was still in there somewhere, just lost in the stress and chaos of the show. People close to Kath said she wanted to believe it was just a phase. That JoJo would come back to her once the cameras stopped rolling and reality kicked back in. It's a brutal thing, the way love makes you see people not as they are, but as you wish they could be. And for Kath, that wish would soon be shattered, in the most brutal way imaginable. As the Big Brother finale approached, Kath made a decision that would change everything. Despite all the warning signs, despite her friends' concerns, she chose to show up for JoJo, to be there at the finish line, to wrap her in love, to remind her who she was and that someone still believed in her. Kath boarded a brutal, exhausting 24-hour flight from Australia to the UK. Jet-lagged, anxious, and hopeful, she made her way to the Big Brother after-party where she expected to finally reunite with her partner, and within less than an hour, JoJo ended the relationship. There was no real discussion, no heartfelt apology, just a cold, casual, "It's over," dropped like an afterthought while the music thumped in the background and Chris Hughes floated around the room. Kath later described the experience as surreal, standing there, having crossed the world to support someone, only to realize they had already emotionally left you behind weeks ago. The flight home, alone, must have felt endless. 24 hours in the air with nothing but time to replay every moment, every betrayal, every broken promise. It's a kind of pain that words barely touch. In the days that followed, Kath broke her silence, and the internet wasn't ready for just how raw her story was. Through a series of TikToks, Kath explained how JoJo's behavior wasn't just painful, it was manipulative. She talked about love bombing, the psychological phenomenon where someone overwhelms you with affection, promises, and grand gestures to create a deep emotional dependency, only to abandon you once the illusion wears off. Kath spoke about being told she was the one, being promised marriage, children, a life together, only to realize she was disposable the moment it no longer served JoJo's needs. Her voice cracked as she explained how she had been left feeling subhuman, less than a person, more like a prop in someone else's story. The raw honesty struck a nerve. People flooded Kath's comments with support, many sharing their own experiences of being love-bombed and discarded. It was clear, Kath's pain wasn't just about losing JoJo. It was about realizing that she had been used, knowingly or not, for JoJo's own emotional survival, and that kind of betrayal cuts far deeper than any simple breakup. In the midst of the growing backlash, JoJo's response only fueled the fire. Rather than expressing deep regret or publicly apologizing, JoJo shifted the narrative. She focused on how she had been hurt, particularly by a letter Kath had sent into the Big Brother house during filming. According to JoJo, the letter hadn't been loving enough. It hadn't said, "I love you" or "I miss you," and that, in her mind, signaled that Kath had already given up on the relationship. It was a shocking level of deflection, because while JoJo was busy building an emotional relationship with Chris inside the house, she was criticizing Kath, who had been fighting for them from the outside, for not saying the right words in a carefully censored message limited by producers. Fans were furious. Instead of holding herself accountable for her actions, JoJo was painting herself as the victim, a move that felt manipulative and immature to many who had once defended her. And even now, JoJo has yet to offer a real apology. Not to Kath, not to the fans, not even to herself. Just TikToks about staying. In the UK, smiling, moving forward, like the past few months of heartbreak were just a bad episode she could skip past. The breakup didn't just tear apart JoJo and Kath's relationship, it split the internet right down the middle. Almost. Immediately, fans began choosing sides, and the divide was brutal. On one side, a small but loud faction of JoJo defenders argued that she had every right to grow, to change, to realize she wasn't happy and move on. They claimed it was unfair to trap someone in a relationship they had outgrown, especially under the pressure cooker of fame, but the overwhelming majority saw things differently. Kath's vulnerability had touched a nerve with thousands of people who had lived through similar betrayals, people who knew the specific agony of being future-faked by someone who had no intention of staying. To them, JoJo's actions weren't just the natural growing pains of young adulthood, they were selfish, calculated, and cowardly. Social media flooded with hashtags like, "Oh, justice for Kath," "We see you, Kath," and even trending phrases like "love bombing is abuse." TikTok and Twitter became battlegrounds. Edits showing JoJo's affectionate moments with Chris spliced alongside Kath's teary TikToks. Reaction videos where people dissected JoJo's behavior frame by frame, pointing out micro-expressions of guilt or dismissiveness. Long threads where strangers, therapists, and trauma survivors weighed in, connecting JoJo's actions to broader patterns of manipulation. Even people who had never heard of JoJo Siwa before were suddenly pulled into the drama, recognizing in Kath's pain something universal. The horror of loving someone who made you feel safe, only to yank that safety away without warning. Meanwhile, JoJo's attempts to defend herself only made things worse. Instead of sitting with the public anger, acknowledging it, apologizing sincerely, she posted TikToks where she danced and smiled, acting like everything was fine. She leaned into a kind of reckless positivity that felt tone-deaf at best and cruel at worst. At a time when people wanted remorse, JoJo gave them glitter and bravado, and for many former fans, that was the final betrayal. Because sometimes it's not the breakup itself that breaks people's hearts, it's the way you handle it. In the end, the story of JoJo and Kath isn't just about a celebrity scandal, it's about something deeper, something achingly human. It's about trust, how easily it can be built, how devastatingly it can be broken. It's about betrayal. Not the dramatic kind full of screaming fights and slammed doors, but the quieter kind. The kind where someone smiles at you while slowly pulling away, letting you drown in the gap between their words and their actions. And it's about grief. Not just for a lost relationship, but for a lost illusion. The person you thought you loved, the future you thought you were building together. JoJo Siwa came into Big Brother UK hoping to reinvent herself. In a twisted way, she succeeded, but not as the mature, authentic adult she might have envisioned. Instead, she revealed a version of herself that was messy, careless with hearts, and unwilling to face the consequences of her actions. As for Kath, her story didn't end with heartbreak, it continued. Through her bravery in speaking out, through the way she turned her pain into a source of connection for thousands of strangers around the world, she became a symbol of something stronger than betrayal, resilience. And maybe, in a world obsessed with fame, it's people like Kath, the ones who survive the wreckage with grace and honesty, who end up winning after all. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more deep dives into Hollywood's biggest disasters.